breaking news, topics that speak to you, and stimulating talk. This is Richard Cloutier Reports on 680 CJOB.
Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk, he's promising to reveal design plans today for a transportation system that is twice as fast as an airplane, cheaper than a bullet train, and completely self-powered. Musk's been dropping hints about the Hyperloop system for more than a year and says it would move people from Los Angeles to San Francisco in half an hour. Now, it might sound far-fetched, but this is the guy that earned his reputation as an inventor, co-founded online payment firm PayPal, electric luxury car maker Tesla Motors, and rocket building company SpaceX. Musk said last week that he would fulfill his commitment to publishing a Hyperloop design, but he's too focused on other projects to actually build it. He says it'll be open source, meaning anybody can use it and improve it. With us on 680 CJOB's Michael Legary, chairman of AssentWorks. Michael, when you first hear these types of stories, do you think, oh, this guy is just nuts, or do you think that, wait a minute here, he's got something, may not be perfected, but we're seeing more and more of this stuff going open source, so just maybe.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example. This is a guy that can do the impossible, and this is a very polite way of him saying it's still impossible. Maybe not another decade, but for him to graciously open source it, to make it available, and to fulfill his commitment. What he's saying right now is that the time, the infrastructure, the politics may not be ready to make this thing happen in North America or other places in the world, he's thinking.
And in that way, you get it out there, and there's a lot of people that, because of open source, can build on it. So help us understand open source and what it has helped us over the last several years really do in the world.
You know, open source, there's a number of great things about it, and there's different flavors of open source. There's essentially what it comes down to is around intellectual property licensing, specifications about use, and profiting from the use of this intellectual property. And it allows people to invest in the technologies before they're truly commercializable, or can't be commercializable because they're just simply not really a profit-making type of intellectual property. Operating systems and a lot of the innovations around security and connectivity that we've gotten in the last 20 years came out of an open source type of community. And in the Hyperloop example here, what we're seeing is that it's a potentially feasible technology. A person who's come together to architect a solution with his team, but now is opening up to a wider set of folks to look at these innovations and make the early investment that may not be profitable, but may be ultimately have benefit to mankind. So, open source has done a lot to move that forward.
Can you help us understand what Hyperloop is all about?
Yeah, really, it's, if you think about your stereotypical 1950s sci-fi, world of tomorrow kind of stuff, it's a high-speed transportation system, a lot faster than anything we have today, and it really allows for almost entirely frictionless high-speed travels. We're talking, over 600 to 800 miles per hour, depending on the particular kind of implementation. So you could have an individual go from New York to LA in a matter of hours for a matter of dollars compared to, current air flight or rail travel.
How many people do you know that have been told it's impossible and they're hammering away at that and have made the impossible possible?
It happens every day. That's what innovation's all about. And especially with Elon, he's the kind of guy who makes it happen, right? With the PayPal money, he was able to, and his patience and approach, he was able to take the electric car and truly defend it not as just a usable technology, but truly a profitable and innovative technology, from a car-making perspective. The same thing with SpaceX. He blew up a lot of rocket ships before he got one that launched successfully. And the Hyperloop is another one where it's just an innovation that is slightly ahead of its time right now. But, the discussion, the time for investment at some level is now. And the impossible will become the possible in a short little while. Given
open source, crowdfunding, and really the ability for you to go beyond with the World Wide Web and everything else associated with it for funding and for ideas, are we a lot more creative planet now than we ever were?
Absolutely. You know, we're actually, what's neat about it is a lot of the ideas that big business never really had the desire to get into are now being made. And you look at a number of the different online sites that offer crowdfunding. You can have a great idea that may only help a couple dozen people, and that's taking off. That's getting funding. That's actually being made. It's being produced and improved, and that's a really neat thing and inspiring thing to see, especially when you look at the folks using crowdfunding to help third world countries and places to take technology and innovation and add it, not just where it could be profitable, but where it's needed. And that's what crowdfunding and open source allows to occur, is innovation not just for the sake of profit and commercialization, but for the betterment of a number of different people.
We're talking about inventions with Michael Legary here on 680 CJOB. Richard Cloutier reporting. So let's localize this. Tell us a little bit about the Winnipeg invention and research community. What are you doing, and tell us about that community.
Sure. So, over the last 3 years, we've been working on a concept called AssentWorks and Ramp Up Manitoba. And AssentWorks is a facility where anyone can come for basically $100 a month and get access to almost $2 million in prototyping equipment. So if you have an idea, you can get access to CNC machines, 3D printers, everything you would need to get that idea built, prototyped, and then ready for crowdsourcing or other types of funding. And then on the Ramp Up Manitoba side, making that idea into a business, we have this great innovative community that's come together over the last 2 years to help you take that idea, create a business model, and then bring it to market. And we've had things like Spot Squad was one of the ideas that was developed in the last year, and it's received international praise for allowing folks to identify people that are parked poorly or parking in a parking violation situation. But it was a good example of one quick idea built here in Winnipeg, which has now gone globally.
Well, that has gone viral in itself, but a part of it is how do you monetize it, right?
Yes, and that's the key with these both from a AssentWorks and a Ramp Up standpoint is get the ideas out and then be able to make those decisions. Is it an open source project? Should I go after something like Indiegogo or Kickstarter for crowdsourcing type of funding? Or do we need to talk to government? How do I get funding from public sources to help take my idea that isn't commercially viable but can help people? How can I make that happen? And who are the people and where are the connections? And that's what the facilities and community is all about.
Tell us about your 3D printer. What is it, and how are you putting it to use?
So we have a number of 3D printers, and actually that's the really neat thing is that 3D printing as a technology, there's a number of different implementations, and we have everything from your basic $1,000 just get it printed plastic printer, and it works kind of like a glue gun where you just sort of squirt the nozzle and glue comes out in a stream. It's basically a big automatic version of that. Whereas one of our higher end printers is a full color powder printer. And, people like Nike, they use it to print shoes. Actually, the Health Sciences Center here locally uses it to print bones and other types of surgery.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Printing bones?
Yeah. So if you're prepping for surgery or you're looking at how to repair somebody's, arm or leg, you need to actually print. And they can actually print the bones out. And they can make sure that their surgery or their retrofit process of adding metal and bolts to this thing is going to work properly and actually help the person. So they do that here in Winnipeg now.
That is so cool.
It is, and it's neat to see where that's what's happening in Winnipeg, and just coming down to the space, you can see these things happen on a daily basis.
All right, where is the space? And you said $100 a month. What do you get for that $100 a month? But tell us where you're at.
Sure, it's 125 Adelaide Street, the third floor, and it's right beside the Red River downtown campus and Canadian Footwear. You can't miss it. And you walk up the third floor, and what you get for $100 a month is 24/7 access to, again, a facility with over $2 million of prototyping equipment and community support. And we're actually we're in the third phase renovations right now, so we're adding in some even newer equipment, but we have 3D printers, CNC machines, circuit board making equipment. Actually, we have the same circuit board making equipment that made the new rim prototypes. You name it, we have it.
And who's accessing it? Can you give us a little bit of a profile of some of the, like, are they basement inventors that are deciding, hey, you know what, I want to spend some time here doing this? Are they U of M, U of W, Brandon U grads, Red River grads? Who are they?
It's everyone, and then that's actually the most inspiring piece of it all. When we first had the idea, now to spell it out, this facility is nonprofit. It truly is like an open source invention community. And when we built it, we didn't know who was going to come. First in our door were students, who needed access to the equipment, but again, they couldn't afford to buy it themselves. They needed the good facility. And then slowly we had a number of different local businesses show up. A local company called Duxton Windows has actually successfully taken a 3D printed extrusion for a window, and they've actually developed a whole new line of windows out of what they've been able to prototype in the space. We've had folks from, again, the health sciences. We've had people from Boeing from a number of different companies, who actually, and viable companies that have big facilities of their own, come in to get involved in the community. And also, again, I'll use the Winnipeg approach, where it's not about building these expensive prototypes. It's about what can I do in a day? What can I do in a weekend? So the harmony we're getting between the big business, local business, and the student populations is they're coming together in 24 hours or 48 hours, cranking out a prototype that none of them thought possible before. So it's a neat mix of individuals.
So what have you done lately?
Oh, for me, a whole whack of things, actually. I guess it was 2 weeks ago we did a build-a-night with a little product called Seguru, which is it's a self-curable plastic. So we were making motor mounts, and we made battery holders. And right now, actually, I've got a business we've been prototyping in the space that does distributed manufacturing. And over the last year, we went from prototyping the idea and from a cost perspective at a ramp-up weekend to actually building the machine prototypes in the space over the last couple months. And we're looking at doing a commercial launch this upcoming spring. So again, it's funny, just by being involved, you'll find something that inspires you to invent or build, and it sucked me into.
We'll put this up on our webpage and the Richard Cloutier Report site at CJOB.com. But, Michael, how do we get a hold of you? How do we get it to be a part of this?
The best way is to check out the website, www.AssentWorks.ca, AssentWorks. And on Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m., every Tuesday evening, we have an open house. You can come on down to 125 Adelaide on the 3rd floor and check out the space for yourself.
Michael Legary, chairman of AssentWorks, joining us live on 680 CJOB.